Welcome to the Cover 4 podcast. I'm Nolan Kangas. That's Bradshaw Furlong. Luca Moya back. His well-anticipated return. And, of course, our buddy Jeff Wall. Guys, let's dive right in. We're getting, to the tail end of pro days and combine stuff. And numbers are coming out left, right, and center. One big number that we're going to talk a little bit about later in the show, Devonta Smith. 166 pounds. That is really light for a potential number one receiver. We'll dive into that in a little bit. But we're going to look at some other things, some other numbers that stick out to us about these prospects and maybe some past prospects that we look at when we're evaluating players, right? We're going to have a big, in our final mock draft heading into what's going to be, the 2021 NFL draft. I think that's going to come out next week, a couple days prior. But we still have some things to discuss about these prospects who will be selected in those first couple rounds. So, guys, some traits, whether it's, something like a 3-cone, a 40-yard dash, is it, a specific actual, practice thing that you see, at the combine. We didn't get to see it this year. One thing I love is the gauntlet. And also some other things that are just, whether it's, grabbing the ball at the catch point. Is it kind of being a little bit more elusive? Is it something in, your first step off the line of scrimmage? Stuff like that we're going to discuss. And, the one who wanted to discuss this a lot was Jeff Wall. So, Jeff, I'm going to throw it to you. What are some things that you really want to see from prospects before you want to take a chance on them and draft them?
So I'll go with something that I tend to want to see and something that I kind of, not that I don't want to see it, but I think a lot of people tend to over evaluate and look at this. And I don't think they realize how much it tends to not translate all the time when you don't have the other aspects to it. Right. So for me, I think for wide receivers, it's number one is just the ability to separate. Right. And that doesn't necessarily mean speed or quickness. And I also think to a large degree, you can't let the combine or pro days as well, especially in this case, hurt or absolutely kill or vault a guy's draft status, right? We've seen so many times where guys will just they'll be absolute monsters on those kind of stats where, you'll see the 40 times or the 4.3s, the verts are close to 40 and up. And so, especially for the big guys too, right? When you see that, you really, these scouts will salivate. But I think realistically, you got to watch it and see, do they separate in college? Are they close to the receiver or excuse me, the defender, or are they making a lot of separation? And I think in contrast to that, one thing I think tends to be misevaluated, I guess, is the catch and traffic ability, the contested catches, right? Because that's usually sort of a physical thing, right? And I think I wouldn't say maybe the number one is speed and strength and size. Generally, all those are kind of things that you generally are going to have a lower level of in the NFL level, but also just the general knowledge and ability to cover a guy, to body a guy out, right? I think that really changes a lot in the NFL. So when you look at guys with contested catch ability, they also have to have the ability to separate because that first part will not always be able to translate. So you think of a guy like N'Keal Harry for Luca's New England Patriots. You think of Kevin White for my Chicago Bears. Obviously, he could separate a little bit, but he did a lot of stuff in very physical ways. And I think, obviously with injuries as well, it eventually didn't translate. So for me, I look at Jammar Chase's number one skill that everybody talks about is his ability to get those contested balls, right? And in fairness, he's going up against guys that are much more closer to that NFL caliber in Trayvon Diggs last year, right? So all that is fair. But still, Trayvon Diggs was not a man yet. He wasn't a man. He's going to be going up against grown men. He's going to be going up against a lot of them, and he's going to be double covered sometimes. I do see his ability to separate, but I don't see it in that incredible of a way every single time that I'm so sure on his ability to translate all those skills in the NFL. And I also think that his 40 time is way, way overblown. I do not see that time on tape at all. Not whatsoever.
That's interesting. And I was actually talking about Jammar Chase on a show the other day, and it was kind of you see, I know, big deal, eh? But you see these other receivers and how they do certain things. I know, Jeff, you mentioned on the last show you're on a big fan of Jalen Waddle, but sometimes you can see Jalen Waddle, he stretches the field, right? He's a burner. Devonta Smith is a fantastic route runner. And you look at Jammar Chase, and it's kind of a mix of a lot of things. But when you look at the tape, it's a lot of Joe Burrow putting the ball in great spots and Jammar Chase also making a great play on it. But it is a lot of seams down the middle of the field. So I'll touch on this next is, again, I'm going to look at receivers you have to see what routes they're running. You think of, I believe it's that the 2015 draft class. You got Corey Coleman, Josh Doxson, phenomenal guys in college, right? Like Blintikoff, I believe Coleman won the Blintikoff that year, first receiver taken off the board. What he ran at Baylor was seam. Let me run past you, touchdown. Doxson, right? A lot of people wouldn't press him, and then he gets to the NFL level and he starts getting pressed and he can't get off the line and he can't get open. And so those are two guys right there. Whereas I think that's kind of what more people are seeing is if you can't get off the line, you're not going to win at the NFL. And there's another topic that people talk about is if you haven't seen them do it, that doesn't necessarily mean they can't do it. But if you look at that in other ways, if you haven't seen them do it, maybe that actually does mean in some cases, like Corey Coleman, they can't run, routes over the middle of the field. And something as well in that class, and which is tricky because I mentioned the gauntlet, right? Laquan Treadwell, I thought he was the number one receiver heading into that class. He wears the backwards cap, he runs the gauntlet, catch, easy money, runs down the sidelines, and it gets to the NFL level and he can't catch a thing. So there's so many other, kind of drills that are run at the combines and pro days that don't, really match up. I think the best evaluation that you can do for a receiver, and everybody talks about it, is it's not the 40, right? It is how well you can get off the line and separate. And when you look at guys in this class, you mentioned Jammar Chase. You don't see it as well as you would see it from a guy like Devonta Smith, right? And then you mentioned those other guys. I was going to touch on it. I was going to say Bradshaw's best friend, Kevin White, and maybe a guy you don't like so much. And Kevin White, and obviously Jeff, when he went to Chicago with that number 7 pick, he's a man amongst boys. He's 6'3". He's an animal out there going against little kids. And I think that's reversed when it looks like Devonta Smith. This looks like a little kid on the field, and he makes these grown men look like little kids. So there is a lot of tough things to evaluate, especially with these prospects and their sizes coming out. One thing I'll also mention is you want to see really quick feet and quick hips from corners. That's something that, really, sticks out to me. That's what Greg Newsome is really bringing out of Northwestern right now. He turns so quickly that NFL teams are going to love that. And then 3 cones of edge rushers. If you're slow, you're not going to get after the quarterback. If you're quick, there's a chance. If you're a little bit, and that's why I think there's a chance of some other guys who are a little bit more raw. We talked about Jason Owe, whereas you didn't have the numbers, but maybe if he gets with the right coach and they say, this guy is a freak, we know he can get around, he can bend, he can get around quickly, there's going to be a chance that he can end up being that superstar that some teams envision. Luca, we've missed you, so I'll throw it over to you next before we get to Bradshaw.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you guys are saying. I think the most important thing when you're judging a wide receiver, obviously we've talked about it. Look at the tape. Tape doesn't lie. But when you're looking at these combines, I'd love to see a receiver get pressed. I mean, let's just be real here. How many times have you seen receivers go to different teams and they don't do as well? It's because the scheme gets them open. A lot of times it happens like that. See, perfect example of a receiver that was schemed open is Chris Hogan. Okay, he couldn't get off the line if his life depended on it, but that scheme for New England, he was just so good, he was just always open. Now, that not necessarily means that he was absolutely obliterating guys one-on-one. He was just really good at finding the zone, and the scheme would help him get open. I love to see guys who can get off the line. And the perfect example for that, I think he was the best receiver in football this year, was Devontae Adams. You can get off the line, guys. You've already have a step on your corner. And corner is harder to play than receiver. Okay, trust me, because you don't know what the heck is going to happen. Can it be a run? Can it be a play action? Is it going to be a pass to my receiver? There's so many different things you have to worry about. And if you already have a step on that corner, right away he's guessing. If you get locked up from the line of scrimmage, you've done your job. It's such a timing sport, especially on offense. The quarterback, you have to help him out. Yeah, that's another reason why you look at these quarterbacks, they don't do good. You look at their supporting casts because it's all timing. 3-step drop, you got to be here. I'm throwing you here. You're not there. You're screwing up the entire play. So getting off the line is important. And when you look at these guys, you looked at Jerry Jeudy when he was coming out. Everybody was saying he was a great route runner. But then you look at it, it's like, okay, but he also played in the slot. He had a lot of free releases. Is he good? I think he had a pretty good season. I thought CeeDee Lamb coming out was a better receiver because he was more on the outside and he was getting pressed more often and he was able to separate. That's what I look at when you look at wide receiver. So I don't know why when we look at combines, we can't have a corner. He doesn't have to follow him the whole way. Jam him at the line for the first 3 yards or whatever, and then let him go. See if he can get off the press, because not only does it help to evaluate the receiver at the next level, it also helps the corners as well. so we could see if they could jam someone up. You need to have a good first step. Good first step when you're playing offensive line, defensive line, everything. Even when you're playing corner, like you mentioned, Nolan, the break on the ball. As soon as that ball is thrown, how quick is your break to get to that football, to intercept the pass or break up the pass or just even maybe affect the play in any way you can? It's all about the first step for me. I think when you look at combines, you have to implement something here because these receivers, they know exactly where they're going to go. They know exactly where the ball's going to go. And it's just a free release. I can do that. You guys can do that. Every receiver can run a route. Okay, that's why they're receivers. That's why they're being prospects. That's why they're able to be in the NFL. But can they get off the line and can they separate what Jeff said and what Nolan said? That's the most important thing for me. Can you separate off the line and not get jammed and screw up the whole timing of the play? Because that's the most important thing when you're looking at the offensive side.
I think one thing you mentioned there that is really important, to me at least, is the difference between quickness or quick and fast. And I think there's a player, when you look at Tyreek Hill, he's both of those things. When he's on the line, he's so quick on that first step. That's where he can use that speed and get past everyone. Whereas you look at a guy like John Ross, yes, he maybe had the fastest combine, 40 ever, but maybe he's not as quick right away or jittery. And yes, he can create that straight line speed and get open once in a while. But if you're jamming him, it's trouble for him. And we've seen that throughout his career. Now he's in New York on a 1 year, $1.5 million deal, right? Mm-hmm. Bradshaw, before you get to what you were going to mention, I want to ask, I'm pretty sure these guys are going to agree as well, but in today's NFL, is the most important thing for a wide receiver when you're looking at it or looking, at tape or evaluating them as a prospect? Is it not speed anymore? Is it not size anymore? Is it pretty much first step in route running?
Is that for me or is that for everybody?
That's for you.
Oh, okay. So I wondered if you want. I think you still have to factor in speed and like explosiveness is still a very big thing. I know, especially with some of the smaller receivers, it's not about like you don't care how physical, you don't care about their size numbers obviously as much. You care more about their speed. You care more about their explosiveness, especially being a little undersized. That's something you have to worry about a little bit more with those guys. But with the bigger guys, I think it's not so. It's more. It is getting off the line, but you don't worry so much about the explosiveness numbers. They have the size. They have that ability. But it's kind of what Jeff said. It's getting that separation and going through and then connecting with Lucas said. It starts by getting off the line right away. And if you can't get off the line, you can't get off that press, you're not going to be able to separate as easy. If you can get that first step, it makes it a whole hell of a lot easier to start getting that separation down the field.
Okay. Can I just say something real quick, actually, because there is a guy that obviously hope he's okay because I know he had a health issue, was Justin Ross from Clemson. Mm. Every time I watched him in college, and he made those great catches in the national championship and everything, and he's made them all year, but he never separated at all. Never, ever. He was always blanketed by a guy, but he was just so tall and so big and had strong enough hands to beat these, ACC cornerbacks. But, it's that I think for me is at least if he was in the SEC, I feel okay, he's playing against guys that are more closer to his size. He's not just bodying worse athletes, right? I really wonder a guy like that, how is he going to do in the NFL as well? So I guess we'll see it in the next year or so.
And then, so obviously, Brad, that was more talking about the receivers. But are you kind of in agreements with us with the traits and kind of stats you like to see out of most prospects? Is mostly what we've been discussing as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly focus on kind of the edge rusher. You talked about the edge rushers a little bit, and it's just kind of because I've been so obsessed with the edge rusher class that we have here because not a lot, like we talked about last week, not a lot of them have a ton of production. Not a lot of them are super polished as pass rushers. So it's a hard balance for me because I do love looking at I think we've talked about in the past episode, looking at the spark scores and I like seeing how explosive is this guy supposed to be based on his his broad jump, the 40 still does hold weight for explosiveness for edge rushers, which is a big deal. And then obviously the 3-cone you talked about the bend, but then also it's when you watch them and you see a guy like I said late last week, Jason Owe has all the physical traits in the world. Kwity Paye, all the physical traits in the world. Gregory Rousseau, same thing. But you also want to see them be able to win with different moves, or at least have one move that they can go to consistently and win with their hands. That's a huge thing. You can be as athletic as you want to be, but if you don't have that move that you can go to or a counter off of that move that you can trust, it's incredibly tough to be a consistent pass rusher in the NFL. So at least having one or two moves that you can go to is incredibly important. So you can look at all the numbers and you can see how explosive these guys are. And I love seeing how explosive and how crazy athletic Kwity Paye and Jason Owe, Russo, Jalen Phillips. But then you have a guy like Azeez Ojulari who isn't as athletic. He's still an athletic guy, and he's a little undersized, but he has those moves to go to. So it's like I want to say I trust that a little bit more, but you also have to balance that with betting on traits and betting on guys that, they're as explosive as you've seen some of these guys in the past be, like a Von Miller, but do they have the moves, and do they have, like you said, you want to get them into the right program, into the right system to be taught those moves and take advantage of those athletic traits.
Okay. So obviously you mentioned a little bit of undersized. Devonta Smith, clearly undersized at a wide receiver position. And I think in our first mock draft, whoever was selecting for the Eagles had him going to Philadelphia. So we're going to talk about the Eagles in a little bit as well. But Devonta Smith, originally they said he was 170, and I thought, well, this is way back at, I believe, was this Mac Jones pro day or whatever it was? Maybe it was even his pro day. He didn't do any drills because, he doesn't have to prove anything right now. But I thought he wanted to show his weight at a light scale and then bulk up and then go, oh man, he's put on 15, 18 pounds in all that time. He's lost weight since then. Luca, do you think his size and weight, I know this guy won the Heisman. He was ridiculous. Nobody could cover him this season. Is that concerning at the NFL level?
I don't think so. I think we just talked about route running and first step, and this guy's got it. And you look at what he did at Alabama. I mean, I'll never understand when we go into a draft how players fall without playing a single game. I'll never understand how 3 months down the road, a week or 2 weeks before the draft, maybe he's not as good as we thought. But where's the evidence there? Well, what has changed in 3 months that didn't happen in the national championship game or throughout the whole season? I think he's going to be perfectly fine. We saw that. I mean, rarely do we see receivers truck a guy anyways, right? So as long as he can separate like we talked about, catch the ball, make those contested catches, whether – I'm not saying he's got to jump over people, but in traffic with a linebacker after he hits him, if he can hold on to the ball, things like that, I think he's going to be perfectly fine. I just don't get how – the prime example of this is Justin Fields. I don't know how he's falling, but even Devonta Smith, like – how is Jalen Waddle being regarded higher than Devonta Smith? For me, I don't get it. I get it's because of the speed, but look at the film and look at the production. I don't think weight should be any impact to that. What did he do? What do your eyes tell you? My eyes told me that he dominated college football, and for that reason, the weight shouldn't be a factor.
Jeff, thoughts?
I completely agree. I think the one thing people will always look at is like, for the size, a lot of it tends to be, especially with receivers or running backs, especially, is like, can he hold up? Man, everybody's different. Like Josh Allen gets hurt more than Lamar Jackson. Shut up. Like it's ridiculous. Like you can't see the inside of their bones. And even if we could, we wouldn't know what we were looking at, man. Like we just don't understand injuries yet. So that to me is ridiculous. We have like a guy like Stingley, who was incredible last year, and he burned him too. And also too, like to Luca's point, like, his game isn't based on physicality, so who cares, man? If he gets the ball knocked out occasionally, okay. But honestly, some small guys are stronger than you think, and if their technique is good, if he just catches the ball and immediately pulls it in real nice and cradles it and protects the ball, it's not gonna matter. And there's also not that many big hitters in the NFL anymore, to be completely honest. Also, and even the areas where he would tend to run routes, like being kind of like those middle kind of areas, he was an incredible and intelligent route runner where he would always find those soft spots in between the zones where no one was around him. So, I mean, intelligence really and skill will just always beat size. And even then, man, like he has great hands. We've seen him make like a couple one-handed catches. Like this dude's too good to pass up on. I think if you're passing up on him over a couple other guys, you're really just drafting to lose, to be completely honest, man.
I think he's smart too, and he knows the right time to get out of bounds as well. Like in most of these games, they scheme him to get open, which is fine because he's going to get open regardless because of his route running ability and release. But he knows, hey, let me not go back in the middle of the field and try and run through a safety and linebacker. He just gets out of bounds. You're at Alabama. You're going to pick up first downs regardless every single time. But you mentioned the way he obviously he is small, but he sometimes plays bigger than what his size is, right? I think it was the game against LSU. LSU was obviously horrible this year. They put up 58 or whatever the hell they put up on them. And I think he had 3 touchdowns and had a one-handed Moss, catch in the back of the end zone where he somehow gets 1 foot down. Like he is freaky, but so Bretch, I'm pretty sure you're in the same boat as all of us, right?
No, I mean, I think being 166, I think he's a bust. He's done. There's no way he's making it. No, obviously it's silly, right? Like it's like for a risk, like we just talked about it. Like for receivers, it's less important. Like combine for me at least is less important than pretty much almost any other position. Like it's what you can do on tape. It's what you can do actually on the field that matters a little bit more. Obviously, the combine has a little bit of weight with certain scores, but like for a guy like Devonta Smith, and especially being who he is, like at his size, like there's basically no comparables for him. So what do you like? There's no way to compare him to a guy before that. You can't say like, oh, we've seen look at all these like 166 guys in the NFL that didn't succeed. We don't see guys like that. You don't see guys like that at the top of the draft. What you saw on film is who he is. Like that's a productive player who's going to be pretty damn successful in the NFL despite his size, and he's also going to get bigger, guys. Like he's going to get bigger, stronger, faster. That's just how the development works in the NFL. So yeah, there's no stock to put. I think it's just people nitpicking, looking for something to find a hole in his game. And people are already fretting about his size a little bit, and then seeing that number under 170, you're like, whoa, under 170, this is tiny. But then once you actually get him on the field, he'll be fine.
You're right. I think if they get him in an NFL weight room, that could help him out a little bit as well. They know, hey, man, we know you can play. Let's bulk you up a little bit. Quickly before we go to Philadelphia, another receiver, his weight came out. This is a different type of receiver where I don't think it will work as well. We know Devonta Smith plays like a natural wide receiver who can get off line of scrimmage. For smaller guys who play like gadget guys, that's a different case and doesn't always end up being successful in the NFL. Tutu Atwell, his size came out today, 5'9", 149. That is tiny.
Wow. Has there ever been a guy that small since like the 40s or when? Oh my God, that's crazy small. Again, I don't care, but that blows my mind. Like
it's putting Jeff Wall on the field, guys. You're putting Jeff Wall on the field.
Ben, I was actually I wasn't even that tall, but like when I played football, I was that size. Man, I think I looked skinnier than him in a jersey. And it fit them real nice or something because he did not look that small. But again, I don't think it matters. I really don't. Like he's like Devonta Smith also like Devonta Smith is also long, so I also think that kind of negates that. But as well, Tutu Atwell is really fast, so I just don't think he's going to get hit that often. And I think if he's smart, he's a good player. You're going to get a good player. But I don't think that should turn people off either.
I think that depends where you draft him to. I'm not taking Atwell at 149 in the first round, but if you're drafting him to be that gadget type of player to, maybe do kick return, punt returns in the 5th round, okay, I can get behind that. But yeah, I don't know another player at the top of my head, maybe like Dree Archer when he came in, like someone that small. But maybe you're right. Maybe he was like a Bruce Matheson II, who just finished World War II, came in the NFL and played. I don't know. All right, let's move on to Philadelphia. They have no idea what they're doing. No. First of all, we heard all this, after all these trades happened a couple weeks back, right? They were at 6. We didn't know what they were going to do. There was a few, times we said, oh, they might go quarterback. Oh, they could go a corner. They could go get a weapon. But they said they only wanted to trade up with the Jets to go get Zach Wilson. So with that, they moved back to 12, swap with Miami, who already made the trade with San Francisco. At 12, we're thinking, okay, this is receiver or corner. That's the direction they're going to go. But now the talk is they wanted to move back up into the top 10, which is, okay, a little odd. And now the news is today, per Adam Schefter, was that there is an open quarterback competition with the Philadelphia Eagles. He didn't, Nick Sirianni did not want to name Jalen Hurts the starting quarterback for whatever reason. Luca, what do you think the Philadelphia Eagles are up to?
Okay, first off, I'm not going to buy that we're having. They just say that the competition stuff just to bring the best out in these young guys. But like, if Hurts isn't your guy, okay. This is probably one of the best, depending on what happens and what we all think is going to happen, probably the best quarterback class we've seen in a long time, where you have maybe 5 guys deep, and there's even guys that can go outside the top 5 quarterbacks. So you could say, what, they got potential. You're sitting at 6, okay? No one said you had to trade with Miami to go back to 12. No one forced you to do that. Okay, so if you're looking for a quarterback, and I know a lot of Eagles fans who aren't sold on Jalen Hurts, you need to stay there, and you need to take the guy. Or now it's harder to trade up from 12 to 4, let's just say, than it would have been from 6 to 4. So for me, getting more picks to trade back, they're probably thinking, I'm thinking the guy we just talked about, Devonta Smith, he could be there at 12. We got more picks. We still get the guy we want. Now they move back to get more picks. Now the picks you just got, you're going to trade them back to go back up.
Mm-hmm.
If this is what they're going to do. For me, that is completely laughable. If I'm an Eagles fan, I'm pissed off if they go back and trade back into the top 5 or whatever, because you were there at 6. You might have had to do what? Swap your 6 with something else, give a second or a future third or something, and you're there. It doesn't make any sense to me. No one said that they had to go back to 12. They were in prime position at 6. That's the whole reason why they tanked the last game of the season anyways, was to get a high pick. Now they traded it back, and now they want to come back up. How did this team win the Super Bowl 3 years? I don't understand how a team could do that. But if they want a quarterback, they should have stayed at 6. You're doomed now. Now you're screwed. You got to take the receiver at this point because there's no point. None of those top 5 quarterbacks I don't think is going to fall to 12. So don't risk your capital you just got to trade back into the top 5. If they do that, anything can happen on draft day, especially with this team. But that would be the most idiotic move, I think, since the Bears and Trubisky 4 years ago.
I don't know if I could top that, Luca. That was pretty incredible. I think you put it really well. Like I think that all the time now, like how did this team like assemble one of the best rosters we've seen in the last 10 years, you know, like make Nick Foles look good. And now look at them where they are now. Like this is just, I mean, fire everybody, man. Fire everybody. Get some fan in there just for fun. Let's just see what happens because honestly, that might be better. That might be more entertaining for other people. And, you know, people could like give the guy some slack or something, but like, this is just like, this is horrible. Awful. And it's just like, wait, so wait, it's also just so unclear. Like, is the quarterback competition between someone you intend to draft and
Joe Flacco, baby. Joe Flacco's taking him to the Super Bowl.
Joe Flacco has never been that good. I don't even care about playoff run. It was all about everybody else around him. I don't care. I don't care. He's never been that good. And the mobile quarterbacks, which he is very immobile now, are just not – they can't do it in the NFL, especially with no offensive line. Whatever. I mean, I'm just thankful I'm not an Eagles fan. Screw those guys.
Bradshaw?
I mean, I don't have much to say other than what these guys have already took from me. But I mean, I think it's just a smokescreen, to be honest, on both accounts. Like the quarterback competition is not open. Jalen Hurts is going to outplay Joe Flacco, and if Jalen Hurts does not outplay Joe Flacco, well, then there's a problem. That just signals a bigger issue with Jalen Hurts. I don't think they're looking to trade up. I think that's just a little silly, to be honest with you. I think. Remember last year. Everyone's, the Falcons are looking to trade up into the top 5 to take Chase Young. Oh, here we go. I mean, even Nolan kept always asking, Bradshaw, you think the Falcons are trading up this year? Are they trading up? No. The Falcons, they get rumored to trade up every year, and they never do. And I think this year, because the Falcons are at 4, they have no room to trade up. People are like, we got to find a team to rumor to trade up within the last week of the draft. Who do we look at? Let's look at the Eagles. The Eagles are pretty dumb. That sounds like something that could happen. No, the Eagles are not trading up. No team, unless they offer like Jalen Hurts the next 20 first-round picks that they have, because the Falcons have them by the balls if they want to trade back up again. So there's no way. There is absolutely no chance they trade up. I think it's silly. I think it's just a lot of like just pre-draft rumor nonsense.
I do think that if there's one team they do make a trade with, it would be Detroit. Because I think they get ahead of Carolina, who's still rumored to potentially be in the quarterback market.
There's another one. There's another team.
Carolina doesn't know what they're doing.
God.
Denver, I think Denver should be taking a quarterback no matter what here. Drew Lock's horrible.
Unless it's Mac Jones.
Sure. But if you get ahead of Denver at 9, then you're in that spot. If Fields falls, if Lance falls,
Sorry, no, I got to stop you there. Are any of those quarterbacks 6'5" and up? Because that's the only kind of guy that John Elway will ever let touch the Denver Broncos.
Fair point.
Let's just be clear.
But you're right. I do think it might be a smoke screen the other way. Whereas a team like maybe they almost want to trade back. They know this roster isn't good. Jalen Hurts is probably going to struggle in this upcoming year. They need to take a receiver. They need some O-line help. Their defense is going to be a mess, right? It's a new coach, a new system. It's going to be trouble. So I wonder if they trade back and just get more picks, right? They get rid of Carson Wentz. They actually got a pretty decent haul back. They make the trade with Miami. They get some decent picks back. It would just be so backwards to try and move all the way back up. And it's clear, is Jalen Hurts your guy? You got to give him another shot, right? And if you weren't sure, you would have stayed, right? And I know you guys were saying that. Like, it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I guess we're going to see when it comes to draft time what they end up doing. I think all of us kind of think it's going to be receiver there. If you take Devonta Smith, who we've been talking about all show, that's going to be a guy that's going to really help Jalen Hurts out a ton. Guys, that's going to do it. Cover 4 podcast, another fun episode. Next episode, Mock Draft 2.0. We are going to be having a lot of fun with that one. Make sure to, of course, like, share, subscribe on Lingo Sports. Check us out on the Lingo Sports Instagram page. You can check out all of our Instagrams and our social medias. That will be in the YouTube description. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Lingo Sports and Lingo News for a whole lot more just like this.